All right, episode 2, Podheads. It's your boy, Easy Zeke. Got my man, JT, in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So me and JT go way back. I've known him since, like, elementary school, preschool days. Yeah, so we're going to get right into it. He does NASCAR now, NASCAR professional tire changer. They're one of the best teams in NASCAR. Professional, you heard that right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always that way. My man started off a football player. So let's just start from the beginning before we get into all the NASCAR stuff. So what sports did you play, and when did you start when you were growing up?
So, I mean, everyone starts off playing soccer, you know. Like 5 years old, my parents put me in soccer. Started doing that. Got older, flag football came into play, played football, then that kind of became my main sport. Middle school, basketball started. So I pretty much just kind of kept going with football and basketball, and then graduated high school. And
Did you have a favorite sport that you liked playing, or that was more
just
competitive
football
than the
and
other?
basketball, really.
Those were your two main?
Yeah.
I think we were on a couple teams together in Arcadia days.
Basketball.
Yeah, in basketball.
The Rim Rats,
maybe even like baseball too. You say Rim Rats?
Yeah.
I don't remember any
With
of the
Marcus
team
and
names.
Malik, were you on that team?
No, but I was on Brandon Easter's and Cameron Easter's team.
Yeah.
I think we played y'all in the championship.
Smacked our ass. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Damn, throwback.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just kind of shows y'all how far back me and JT go. But so you continued playing football and basketball throughout high school because those were like your two favorites.
Yeah.
And then you got a scholarship or a walk-on offer to go to Winston-Salem State?
Yeah, walk on was
Okay.
like my last choice, like available at that time. Funny story, I got suspended in high school, you know that. Missed 7 games in my high school senior year career. So it pretty much killed my opportunity to go like anywhere else besides like a small local school. So Winston-Salem State was it.
Free JT.
Yeah. What a bad timing.
We had a lot of hashtag movements in high school that happened as far as that goes, like free hoots, free
dude.
JT, free.
A bunch of hoodlums that we went to school with.
Shout out to the 336, man. Yeah. But most of us are doing well now. So went to Winston-Salem State for how long before you converted over to a completely different world?
So I went to Winston-Salem State for a year. I was a red shirt. Didn't really learn from my mistakes in high school, and didn't go to class very often. So I ended up not being eligible to play my sophomore year of college football, and then kind of just dropped out, I guess you could say, but figured out that you could do this thing called NASCAR, and started going to this place called Richard Childress Racing and learned this whole other sport that like just opened my eyes, and these old guys doing it. I'm like, oh shit, like
this could be a
career. I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, give me like a few months, but like.
So when you were kind of coming to the end of your, first of all, what position did you play?
I played corner, defensive back in Winston-Salem State.
Winston-Salem State. So
Yeah.
my man JT was, the only white boy out there trying to put on
HBCU,
at the HBCU. So what made you kind of want to go to RCR when you got done with the football and school thing? Did you kind of realize that you wanted to stay doing something where you could use your athleticism, or did you kind of just it fell into your lap, or how'd that work out?
So I used to play pickup basketball with Austin Dillon, and sorry about that.
It's all good. This is Mabel or Maggie?
Maggie.
We got Maggie. She wanted to be in the.
We got
the
two other
podcast.
fur humans here, but so I played pickup basketball with Austin Dillon and his whole posse. So once I started doing that, his dad actually offered me like an opportunity to go to the shop and like learn this sport that they did in NASCAR. And so I got into doing that, and they put me on like an hourly job and just helping out with practices and stuff. So learned the sport that way. It kind of just fell in my lap, like you said. So
did you first, like, when you started, you said you started off on like an hourly basis, and was that kind of just like working in the shop doing like handyman jobs, or were you automatically just like working on a car? Or, like, how did that work out?
It's like any other like practice. So we had 5 teams at the shop. They would go from, let's say they all like first practice started at 9:00, and the last one went into like 2 or so. So we had like 5 guys, like developmental guys is what we called them. and they would help out with practices, kind of like cater to the older guys, the teens, to just get everything prepared for them. And
these are like your veterans and
the vets, and like kind of just cater to them all afternoon. And then once you got the opportunity to like work on what you're wanting to do, it was like after hours kind of thing.
Gotcha. And was tire changing the first kind of it's a position, I guess you could say, that you were given the opportunity, or the one that you wanted to try?
Yeah, so when I got in there, they pretty much told me that like just start practicing changing tires. And this other kind of newer guy started helping me out, and Ethan, actually.
Shout out Ethan.
Shout out Ethan.
We just went on a bachelor
bachelor
party in Austin with Ethan. Shout out Ethan.
Took me under his wing and just started showing me like the basics and the fundamentals of this new sport that I had like no idea. You know, it's like riding a bike, and you're 20 years old learning like a whole new sport. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, wow, this is like, I'm seeing these 35-year-olds making it look easy, and like I'm like in my prime, like athletic as shit.
Fresh out of, being a high school and college athlete. So.
Yeah. And just like watching these 35-year-old men out of shape doing this job, like it's nothing.
I guess they look out of shape, but they're not really out of shape.
I mean, yes. And like they did this shit like it was like nothing. Like, it was like us playing basketball or something.
Yeah.
So
also funny quick backstory I wanted to go over. I didn't make a note about it, but thank God I remembered. Me and JT also in college, and a little bit in high school as well, started off at the NASCAR races selling lemonade and pretzels. So this is for a real come-up story right here. In the slums. We used to get out there, if I remember correctly, depending on like if it was a drag race or the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte or whatever it was, we would have to get out there sometimes like 8 or 9 in the morning, maybe like 7 sometimes. But you would be out there for 12 hours, 14 hours.
So if you don't know, like the NASCAR like schedule, like the 600 race is the longest race on the schedule in Charlotte,
which I didn't know.
Neither did I at the time. And like we'd be there at like probably 8 o'clock in the morning, like setting up lemonade stands and working all night, all day. And you can't hear anything but these loud ass race cars going around.
Every 2 or 3 minutes. There was always bees and bugs all around this stuff. Like one time, me and JT had a bee infestation at one of our stands. But
were you there when we sold the pretzels and they were terrible? Oh, they were like cardboard, and people would buy them, and we were like telling them like, yo, like don't buy these, they're terrible. And they're like, it can't be that bad. And like they come back and just like be pissed off, and we're like, well, man, like we told you. Like,
that's one thing about NASCAR too, is that there are some interesting fans in any sport, really, professional sport. You're gonna have some really dedicated and interesting fans that you meet. And us growing up in the area that we grew up in, a lot of the people we grew up with were, big NASCAR people. But like JT said, we didn't really get into it, or he didn't really get into it. I'm still trying to get into it, but until we were much older, almost 20, 21. So, that's a real come up story right there as far as the lemonade stand. Now he's on one of the best teams, one of the best pit crews in NASCAR, if not the best pit crew. Y'all are the fastest.
We were P2 over the years, so we weren't the best, unfortunately.
Almost there. P2, that's P1, I'm assuming, is number
P1,
1. But so what else we got?
Come on,
so, you have explained to me when we've had just simple conversation, when we've hung out over the years, but you started off with smaller contracts and then work your way up to longer and bigger contracts. Was it always with RCR? And like, what was the first type of race you did up until obviously you're in the like, almost the highest level,
So there's 3 divisions in NASCAR. There's the Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup. And then there was this other series, the ARCA Menard Series, which is now. It's kind of what like these developmental guys start out at, and it's like a real lower class, like learning step. So my first race was actually like 6 months into like actually figuring out how to change tires. I drove with this team to Michigan in this 15-passenger van, which is terrible.
How far was that drive?
It was like 10 hours. 10 hours there. We left at like probably 3 in the morning.
These are some big dudes too.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was only like 6 of us, so we had like pretty spacious room.
Okay.
So I mean, 10 hours there, switching off driving, race like.
So y'all didn't even have a dedicated driver. Y'all were all pulling shift.
Yeah, like
that's crazy.
Everyone had like 3 hours or something, and then we get there, we do like maybe 1 stop, maybe 2, but nothing that really mattered, and get paid. We either get paid cash or a check, and then once that race is over, we hit in the van and head back to North Carolina.
When did you realize, and was it in this time that you realized that, man, I could really make a career out of this the harder I work at it? Or?
I mean, yeah, so I knew about like what the older guys were doing and like how long they've been doing it and what they were making, kind of like in the ballpark range. So I had nothing else to do either. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try to perfect this sport and see where it goes. And
yeah.
So now I'm like, this is about to be my 6th season. So I started in 2017. So,
6 years already?
Yeah, 6 years.
Sheesh.
Crazy.
How long was your first like big contract that you signed?
So I signed contracts now. They're actually starting to get a lot bigger, which is good for the sport. But back like when I first started, people were only signing like 1 to 2 year deals. So
is that just because it's more of a, sorry to interrupt you, but is that just because it's more like injuries they're trying to worry about?
I guess,
or?
but like I think it's just, man, I don't really know. Like I guess they just never really thought about signing long deals, or they never know like how long your career could last, kind of thing. But now, and then back then it wasn't like athletes, like, so they wouldn't have like, they had more mechanics fit the car than they would athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But now, starting like these past couple of years, they're recruiting these athletes, ex-athletes from college that aren't going pro to their sport, and getting them to come down and like try out this sport, and then they'll sign them to like a 2 year deal, kind of.
See where it goes.
Yeah, see where it goes, and like you don't have really mechanics that can go over the wall and work on these cars like back in like 2015. Like all these guys would be working on these cars and building these cars in the shop, and also going to pit them on the weekend. So nowadays it's just like pure athletes that go over the wall.
Yeah, so they're going for the people that want to still use their athleticism to a degree, but kind of have nowhere else to go. And it's kind of like, hey, man, you could really do something with this right here and still stay athletic, if not get more athletic, because
I mean, you're literally working, you're doing the same thing you'd be doing in a professional sport, but you're not getting paid as much, obviously. And it's, I mean, it's different, but it's still like the same way you grew up playing sports. You like practice all week, work out, and then you just travel on weekends.
Do y'all have like plays that you kind of call as like when a car's like, approaching y'all? And
so there's like
kind of like, we just need 2 tires, this much gas, blah blah blah.
We'll different tracks, different
Blue 42.
I mean, the crew chief, so our crew chief is our coach basically during the race. He calls the race, he tells us what to do. So if we're doing 2 tires, he'll call that out, 2 tires, before we even hit pit road. So that's basically like, and we'll have fuel only at some of these tracks, and that's about like the only 2 plays. I mean, you have 4 tires usually, and that's the basic. Like, how
long is the average in NASCAR right now? Not y'all's average, but like the average overall.
I would say probably like 10 seconds. We average like a 10 flat.
Yeah, so explain that a little bit as far as that adjustment. So
they take 5 lugs off to get the wheel off. So now, Cup Series, they made this new car which only has 1 lug, and so now we didn't know how it was going to work. So we kind of all went into it not knowing much, and we actually kind of perfected it almost, and like did really well compared to these other teams. Like,
y'all adjusted pretty quick compared to these other teams?
Yeah, so like we kind of were pretty consistent at the beginning of the year and kind of stayed that way and got faster and never had like really huge mistakes like these other teams. They had wheels coming off, and like when a wheel comes off, that's a 4-week suspension for that changer, jackman, and the crew chief.
And that's if it comes off in the middle of a race, or
so
if any time really,
huge,
I guess.
Huge, yeah. So like everyone,
crazy.
There was probably like 13 different cars that had wheels coming off, and that was like the death of us because we had like no backups at our team. So it was like we made sure that lug nut was on there. Cause
this changed this past year or the year before?
Yeah, this past year. So
like right after COVID?
Yeah.
That's so crazy that And that rule was in effect when the lug nut thing changed?
Yeah, that rule was in effect just like even when we had 5 lugs.
Oh, so that's always been a rule.
Yeah, but like they should have like changed a little bit of it just because like
if it's just one bolt that's kind of holding it, right?
Yeah, so like 3 lugs you can like kind of tell you have a loose wheel. Like driver will say you have a vibration.
Yeah.
And they'll come down pit road because you're not going to lose the wheel because you at least have like 2 or 3 secured on there.
Yeah.
But now like if you got a loose wheel and then like these cars, the drivers can't really tell if it's loose or not. So they'll be going off pit road and their wheel just comes off like as soon as they get into like turn 2. So it wasn't like you couldn't really save it like you could in these 5 lugs. So it was just like.
Have you ever had either a wheel on your team's car or on another team's car pop off while y'all are hopping? Well, before I get into that real quick, let me ask you this because this is still kind of on like the beginning stages. How scary was it the first time you ever hopped over that wall, even if it wasn't in like a real race, and that car is coming at you at like 50 miles an hour, and this is like a 2 or 3 ton, however much it weighs, car?
Yeah, I mean it's like I still get nervous like to this day.
You've been doing it for 6 years now,
and like so the first time I did it like.
Jumped in front of a car.
Yeah, butterflies, man. Like, and like the guy that first started coaching me, kind of, he would tell me like, yeah, this is not gonna be anything like going to the track. Like you're gonna have 30 cars coming at you at 55 miles an hour,
it's
and
loud.
like, yeah, it's loud, and like you gotta focus on like your one car. And like it's like a different atmosphere. Like you can't hear nothing. Like
I bet your adrenaline is pumping.
Oh, bro! Like I don't even know if I'm breathing when I jump off the wall.
You
but
just
like,
black out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I mean,
do you think you've gotten to the point now where it does kind of seem like it's muscle memory or kind of a routine, or do you still have to really, really dial in before a race and kind of like get your mind focused on that one thing?
Yeah, I mean, like there's definitely a lot of muscle memory, but like that one thing that like if middle of stop something goes wrong, like that's not right, and it just like everything like slows down almost like 30 seconds feels like, and like I'm like, oh shit, like I'm like seconds are going off the clock, and I'm like, damn, like we're about to lose like 2 spots right here, and like you just know it, and like it's the worst feeling almost ever. It's going off the wall.
Oh yeah, so it's talking about how nervous you get. Do you have like a pre-game or pre-race routine that you kind of do now before every race that gets your nerves calm or gets you in the right mindset to go out here and do this?
Sometimes I have like a song I get stuck in my head when I'm on the wall, and I sing it constantly on the wall. But other than that, like it's just this. I don't have any kind of routines. Like just kind of get up there and go. But
do y'all have like a warm-up lines or anything like that, like a layup line?
There are like, so they call them hubs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a make-believe hub you have on your pit box that you can like drill on before the race. That some teams have. We don't really have them just because one lug is like, I don't know, you can't really. It's pretty easy, right? Like you're just gonna hit one lug. Like some of these teams, like I don't know, they're extra, you know. But we kind of think that like. Just warming up, I stretch and everything, kind of get the blood going. But it's crazy because like if you warm up before the race, you're still going to be sitting down waiting 30 minutes before you do an actual pit stop. So it's like warm up, green flag drops, then like they run laps for 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And then caution comes out finally, the end of the stage, and then that's when we finally get to do our job. So it's like we sit around. Our job is just like basically sitting around the like 2.5 hours of this whole race, and we work like 30 seconds. You know, that's the crazy thing. Like we work probably 30 seconds a day during pit stops and
total because they're like 10 seconds each.
10 seconds, 10 seconds, and then you do like
it's time to get paid.
Yeah, like 5 stops, and it's like, oh, that's like 50 seconds of work, a minute of work.
That's crazy.
But we also, there's like a lot of work that we put in before.
Yeah, behind the scenes stuff that people don't see.
Yeah, so we have to set up the pit box, which takes like 30 to 45 minutes. We get there and prep wheels. Like we'll have like 5 to 8 sets of tires, like, you know, and we have to prep all those. And that's honestly but this is the hardest part, you know, like.
Is the prep that goes into the race?
Yeah, so like. Not the practice prep, but like the day of prep, like
the equipment and stuff, and just
like when it's like 90 degrees in Miami, and then sometimes we have double headers. Like it's just a lot of
double header. Is that going to be 2 races in a day or 2 in a weekend?
Yeah, so 2 2 races in a day kind of thing. So we'll have like some days we'll have Xfinity race at noon, and then right after at like 5 o'clock we'll have the Cup race.
Yeah. And
Stuff like
those races are all different lengths, so you could be there. How long is like the shortest race, and how long would the longest race be? And this also takes into account like cautions and stuff like that.
So let's say like Xfinity race is maybe like 200 miles usually on average, and then some of the longest races we have on Cup are like we have like 500 milers. But like most of the Cup races range from 400 miles to 500. So I mean, those can last 3.5 hours, 4 hours, compared to Xfinity, which is like 2.5 hours. Which is like kind of the average of a race.
But I mean, you're obviously there way longer.
Yeah, so like we're there, so they have a garage, like they have a schedule itinerary of like when the garage opens. So all the mechanics get in there and they prep the car and like run the engine, and they get there, and we get there about the same time they do. So that's like 4 hours before green flag drops, so when the race starts. So they get there and get the car warmed up, make all their adjustments, final adjustments and everything. And that's when we get there, set up the pit box, prep our wheels and tires, and then we'll have like a maybe 2-hour downtime. And then we get dressed hour before the race, get out, set up all our equipment, our air guns, and some of the other guys will tape tires and get their tires ready, warm up, and then
how many tires do you go through in like a race? I guess it depends on how much you need them, but on average,
on the track, like we'll go to Daytona at the beginning of the year, and we'll have 5 sets of tires, and we'll only use maybe a set, and usually that's when we do like right side tires, left side tires, and then a fuel only.
Gotcha.
Just because like tires don't wear at these super speedways. And like then we'll go to Darlington middle of the season where the track's real rough, and we'll have 11 sets of tires, and we'll go through 10 of them easily. So every caution that comes out, we're going to come down, put tires on.
Shit, what was I about to ask? Oh, I wanted to get into like the cities and stuff that you've been. Let me see if that's what I want to do next though. Are you good on time right now?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
All right,
cool.
cool.
Nothing to do.
All right. These kind of go hand in hand, I guess, but I do want to talk about the cities that you get to travel now, and also the celebrities, because NASCAR has become, in the past, it's crazy when you started it, because like that was when it first kind of became, I feel like it's always been mainstream, but when I first started seeing athletes from other sports and artists and just celebrities in general start going to these races. But so what's the coolest city you've been to? What's your favorite track? And then just talk about a little bit about like just celebrities you've met. I'm gonna put a picture up. My man JT made it onto Rick Ross's Instagram, which is just crazy.
Yeah, Rick Ross is a huge NASCAR fan.
That's so funny. And Michael Jordan owns a team now too, doesn't he?
Yeah. So MJ's in it.
I saw maybe it was this past season. Who was it? Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson were at one of the races. But yeah, just like in Lil Baby.
Yeah.
Weren't you on Lil Baby's story?
Yeah. I got a picture of Lil Baby and his kid. They went to Atlanta.
That is so cool. Just talk about those celebrities that you've met. What's the coolest ones you've met?
We'll go to these tracks. So California is like one of the biggest tracks because that's when we see like most of our celebrities.
Is that in LA?
So where is that? Fontana.
How far is that? I've never been to Cali. I mean, I've been once, but I was like 2 years old. I don't remember nothing.
So we go to 2 tracks in California, Fontana and Sonoma. So Sonoma's right outside San Francisco, the wine country. So then Fontana, I can't even tell you what part of California Fontana's in. I mean, we can look it up right now.
We could.
We do got phones and shit.
We do. Mine's over there not recording.
But Fontana is like the one city or racetrack that you'll see most of your celebrities, because I guess that's near somewhere kind of local to these celebrities. I saw Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was there. Talking about a 6'6", I guess, woman that wears high heels.
That's interesting celebrity to see.
Logan Paul. I got a picture with Logan Paul 2 years ago he was doing a podcast during it. Actually, it's on YouTube.
And are you in that podcast?
I don't think I'm in it. It wasn't a podcast. It was a vlog.
Gotcha.
But he was at that race. The Super Troopers. They were actually dressed up as Super Troopers at the racetrack. I got a picture of them.
Those are some potheads for sure.
Oh, dude. It was so Farvo. I mean, he was hilarious. But that's like one of the biggest tracks that you'll see all these celebrities. And then we'll go to...
Are those your favorite tracks, the ones that you see?
Yeah, I wouldn't say... Fontana's not really my favorite because we don't stay at like a city or anything. Indianapolis is really cool because the racetrack is like right outside the city, and Indy's like a huge kind of race attraction with the Indy 500.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of have a big crowd, not so many people as the 500, but it's a good atmosphere. They always have a big concert in the middle, and then we stay right in the middle of the city, so it's always good eats. So we go to
good eats.
Yeah,
we got some oysters.
No, we go to this Peyton Manning's steakhouse called St. Elmo's.
Ooh,
fire! The shrimp cocktail is fire.
You get to eat in some dope ass places since you're traveling all the time.
So then I like Vegas a lot. A lot of people don't like Vegas, but I like the atmosphere in Vegas is like pretty cool because.
The track or in the city?
The track, because it's like right outside of the strip, kind of probably like 20 minutes outside the strip, and it's like just in the middle of the desert.
What time of year do y'all do that? Is it?
So it's the beginning of the year, so it'll be
it's
like
not too hot there then?
Nah, I wouldn't say too hot. Yeah, it's like...
Because I know Vegas, it can get in the hundreds during the summer.
Yeah, and then we'll go to the end of the year. So it's kind of good timing, but...
What is a typical race season, February to like November?
Yeah, February, right after Valentine's. Well, actually, they start... before Valentine's, weekend before Valentine's, I think, this year, and then all the way to I think it might be the second weekend in November this year, or the third, but it's the longest season, I think, in professional sports almost. I mean, it's like however many months. I mean, it's crazy, man.
And almost every single weekend, you're on a plane.
Every weekend.
He's on a plane going to a different city, which is probably a blessing and a curse now.
Yeah, like, I mean, these...
Probably get exhausted.
These guys with families, like, they literally spend 10 months out of the year missing their families, like, their kids' sports games, like, growing up, like, it takes a toll on them, but, like, I'm, like, out here... kind of enjoying it, you know. I get to go.
I mean, you're still pretty young too. So.
Yeah, so I get to go to all these different states, which I've been to them numerous times now. But it's still like we get to do something new almost every time we go.
Yeah.
And then like find a new spot to eat at. That's one of our favorite things to do. Is get these like
that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, get these nice spots. Like I'm trying to think. Phoenix is good for like these Mexican places. These little hole in the wall Mexican places. They're smack. And then. Vegas, we go to a pretty nice steakhouse, like St. Elmo's almost. But I would think I really don't really have like a favorite racetrack or city besides like Indy, just because it's like
Indianapolis.
Yeah, just like a dope city to go to.
I've never even thought of that of being like a dope city to visit. Right. I really only know of like the Colts, and I don't even know what other sports team is in Indianapolis.
Yeah, we stay right outside the Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play. Yeah.
Is that you said that's one of your favorite places?
Yeah, I would think so.
Do you have a least favorite?
Yeah, God, I do. I don't know what it is. I can't think it off my head. Atlanta, I hate Atlanta sucks.
I haven't heard. I don't want to be disrespecting Atlanta on here, but I know several people post high school and college that have lived in Atlanta, and I haven't heard them say like one good thing about living there or visiting. So.
Yeah, I mean the racetrack. I think they could have put it in a better spot. I don't really even know the part of Atlanta it's at, but I mean that is where we saw Lil Baby and Rick Ross, which is cool. But it's just not in like a fun area, you know. Like,
what's the fan base like there for NASCAR?
It's like a hit or miss. Like I don't know, it's not as good as like this. Like Daytona is honestly the coolest fucking race. Like the Daytona 500 is the Super Bowl, which is like crazy to think because it's the first race of the season.
That is, I've always thought that was backwards. When I was growing up, I remember thinking the Daytona was like, you know, you said the Super Bowl, so it would have been the last race of the season. But honestly, I don't think I knew that it was. Like the first race until you started doing NASCAR, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's like the crown jewel. Like you get rings if you win, but like everybody wants to win the Daytona 500, and like the crowd we have there is unbelievable, man. Like we had the president of the United States come to the race And
who was it whenever he
it was Trump.
Was it?
Yeah. And like imagine Trump at like
a NASCAR
race. You know, like holy shit, there's security everywhere,
going
man.
crazy.
People are nuts for that dude.
Yeah.
Crowd is unbelievable. I mean, packed house. Like it gets you like it gives you kind of butterflies and like chills to see how many people show up to that
That's
race.
awesome. And that's a huge track too.
Yeah, huge track. The infield's like packed. Talladega's also like a cool race to go to just because it's in the middle of nowhere in Alabama. Like these people camp out in this huge track, stay there all weekend, and they just like live on beer and meat. You know, like they wake up drinking beer and smoking meat, cooking
on the
meat.
Liver King diet.
Literally, it's like insane how they can like survive out there. But they have this thing called the Boulevard at Talladega, and that's like kind of where everything goes down. They do these crazy like I wish I had like videos of like the craziest things they do. I mean, they have stripper poles. They do these mud wrestling things. Like, I mean, just ridiculous things that I can never imagine.
Before or like at the race?
Yeah, just during the weekend. Like after
and the infield and stuff?
Yeah, like Talladega Boulevard is like in the middle of the infield, and like that's where everything goes down. Like people like they do these craziest things. Like they have stages, and you'll see a bunch of drivers going out there and hanging out.
Yeah,
but it's wild.
What's the craziest thing you've seen a fan do at a race? Has anyone like charged the like track or like
in Richmond? A guy was straddling the catch fence during the race. So
that's the one that goes along the wall that blocks the fans.
Yeah, that blocks the fans. That secures the fans from the race cars.
And that one has like a lip that hangs like kind of a curve at the top over the track.
Yeah, so this crazy fan, I mean, 20 feet in the air, climbed this fence. As the race is going on, these cars are going like 180 miles an hour.
I'm sure
and he's straddling the fence, and like they had to throw the caution out and like get this guy off the fence.
What'd they do to get him off? Tase him or something?
I mean, I guess he finally. I mean, they threw the caution out, so he had to get down. So they finally, I guess he just crawled down, and I'm sure he got arrested. But
how many? This is a little off topic, but not really. How many NASCAR races did you go to growing up, if any?
So I went to.
Besides when we worked at them at the Lemonade stands.
Yeah, I think I went to like one truck race with my dad in Charlotte. But like other than that, never.
Does Charlotte ever feel like a homecoming type of deal for you?
Yeah, it's cool. You see like you get to bring all your families usually. Like you'll see all the guys you work with bring their families, and it's just like you can drive there, so it's like weird.
You don't have to catch a plane or anything, obviously.
Yeah, so we don't have to fly out somewhere crazy. So we get to go, just drive there, race day, drive back. So. It's convenient at that, but it's just cool. They do a really good job there in the 600 with all the military, like put on a good show for all that. So
the 600, you said earlier, is the longest
race of the 600 miles.
That's the only race I've been to, and
didn't even
I don't even remember the last time I went, but I went to a few when I was growing up, and honestly, I never was really into it like that. But honestly, now that I know that there's more of a athletic sense of NASCAR that do it, it's a lot more interesting to me. And to see, like I said earlier, all these like cool celebrities, athletes kind of crossing over and making that sport more popular is cool to see.
I mean NASCAR, that's like when you say like NASCAR gets a bad rep because they just like people assume the fan base of like all these redneck, drunk guys and
people straddling fences,
right? Like hollering at like the fans. I mean, just crazy stuff. But then you like get the behind the scenes of like in the garages and like watching these pit crews like do their job, and like there's like people don't see that stuff on TV. You know? Like they see it for like 10 seconds when they actually put them on TV during a stop, but you don't really get to experience it till you're there. Mm-hmm. And people say how like incredible it is and interesting, but.
I've been meaning to get to infield not recently, but probably in the past year. Last year I was like, man, I definitely need to go check one of those out. Honestly, once I saw you on Rick Ross's Instagram and I saw Matt Barnes and them there, I was like, dang, maybe these NASCAR races ain't so bad.
I mean, like Alvin Kamara, he's like involved in NASCAR now. He like I don't know what position he has with working with NASCAR, but
he's at all the races, not all of them.
Not all of them, but before his season starts, he's at a good amount of them. I see him.
You talk to him about Shaw at all?
No, I never like really got to go up to him and talk to him just because.
Probably a lot going on.
Yeah, famous guy. You don't want to be like super fanboy and everything. Yeah, hey man, you know my buddy Shy. He's like my best friend. I'm like,
He's my best friend.
Yeah, I'm not fanboying over Shy like that.
That's fuck you, Shy. You ain't shit. I mean, you ain't Alvin.
Well, you think you're famous? Yeah, whatever, man.
We're gonna have Shy later on the show, but yeah, I know some cool people, man. I know some cool.
We do have an interesting friend group, man. Like,
if Walker joins the army, that'll be the ultimate.
Literally.
Like, we'll have the rapper, we'll have the country singer, we'll have the NASCAR, the NFL, the shoe guy driver. As far as Cam goes, the accountant with Dylan,
UPS driver.
Yeah, I got the UPS.
Can't forget UPS.
We got it all in our friend group. Let me see if there's anything else I needed to or wanted to touch on. All right, yeah, this is kind of interesting. We cool to talk about my man JT getting married coming up.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you're the first person I'm gonna be in their wedding, but you're like one of the second or third friends I've had since I've known you since we were in elementary school or whatever that's getting married. Little funny story about that too. My man is with the boss's daughter, so crazy. That's a crazy story. If you want to get into that,
gotta watch what I say. Yeah, so. Johnny, that's my fiance's name. She's a woman. It's kind of crazy. She was named after her grandfather. But Andy Peacher is her father, right? So I'd known Andy before I knew Johnny, obviously, when I started at RCR. And
was he the one that hired you?
Yeah, basically. So he's our vice president of competition.
Did you interview with him?
So no, I didn't really interview with him. Interviewed with like the management of our pit department, kind of. So he was just he looks over all of our contracts and all that good stuff. So I knew of him and he knew of me, but we never really got to talk. And I didn't even know he had a daughter, actually. And like, let's see, like 3 years ago, when I met Johnny. So a little over 3 years ago, she was training in our gym for the Olympics, actually. She was training with our trainer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
for what?
At the time, she didn't know, so they just contacted her. She played college softball, and she was going to get drafted in college softball. She did get drafted, but she didn't want to go play in, like, Alabama somewhere.
That, I never, ever knew that. That's
yeah,
fire.
So she's like...
Y'all kids are going to be some athletes.
Yeah, she was pretty good in her career, too. And then she got this call, I guess, and said to come up to Salt Lake City, Utah, and do this kind of combine deal for the Olympics, and
for the Team USA.
Yeah, so she didn't really know what for, and she started working out at our gym and with our trainer, and then like we saw her and we're like, oh, who was that? Because we don't have like many women coming through a race shop, you know, like, especially a good looking blonde headed girl, you know.
Walks through and y'all are probably like,
yeah, like oh yeah, howling, you know, like oh shit, like who is that?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh no, that's Andy Peacher's daughter. We're like, oh,
off limits.
Yeah, we're like, basically. Oh, okay, yep. So off limits, like no one even talked to her ever besides this one guy, Corbin. He works at another race team now, but he'll be at the wedding. He's like the only dude that really talked to her, and like, cause he's an idiot. But finally, like, she followed me on Instagram. I followed her back. Then time goes on, and finally she just like slid in my DMs, and I'm like, oh, she like initiated like the first like move, you know?
I
like,
didn't know that either.
Yeah, she initiated the first move, so now I'm like, all right, I'm in. So now I'm like talking to my boss's daughter for a little bit, but he was actually cool about it.
How nerve-wracking was that, and how soon after did he find out?
So it made me feel better that he actually recommended like me to her, kind of like she was asking about like people at the race shop, and then she I think asked about me, and like he's like, oh yeah, like he's a super cool dude, like love him, like kind of like hyping me up a little bit, and then finally she slid in my DMs, and we just kind of hit it off from there, and then started going out. She had an apartment in Winston, and we started hanging out and like never stopped, and then I mean there's like history after that.
Yeah,
like,
here we are.
Met the family, like it was crazy. Like it all just worked out. But
we got a month until a little less than a month now. Yeah, until the wedding.
30 days is
which is lit, by the way.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a fun time.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
That's a modern day love story right there. I didn't know. One, I didn't know she was training for the Olympics, and two, I didn't know she was the one that initiated.
Oh, it was for bobsledding. She actually made the team.
Bobsledding?
Yeah, she made the team, bobsledding, and they called her, and they said, you mind adding like 15 pounds? And she was like, No,
Actually,
I'm not,
I do mine.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's funny you ask.
I'm not doing that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They needed to wait so it would go faster. And
Yeah, I guess.
Just have some more momentum.
But if she would have took that, then like we probably would have never even met, kind of deal, because that was like right at the time when she was like done working out, and we didn't start talking about that till like after, like months later.
That is insane.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yep. Yeah. If y'all do end up having kids, those are gonna be some athletic babies. I knew she played softball, but I didn't know she was doing all that too. Bobsledding is probably pretty hard.
Yeah, have you ever seen that movie?
What is it? Jamaica.
Jamaican bobsled.
What is
team?
that shit called? Can't even think of it
Good
right
one,
now.
though. It's a good one to watch.
Oh, that's gonna bug me. I can't think of it. But yeah, no, that is a good one.
Yeah.
So what do you got? Anticipations coming up for this coming race season. Y'all were P2 last year.
Yeah.
Y'all
So
looking
our
at
team,
trying to take over that P1 spot.
Yeah. So our
You got the same guys you've been working with pretty much the whole time, with the exception of maybe like one or two. Or
no, the whole team's coming back. We just signed like we were talking about contracts earlier. Like 1 to 2 years was like the average length of a contract, and now these teams are like realizing like how valuable these guys are during the race. And our team signed a 5-year +1 deal, like one of the biggest deals that I've ever seen personally, and then like RCR also has ever seen. So these other teams are signing big deals too, and like it's exciting to see. Like,
so it is all the same guys.
Yeah, so same guys will be coming back. We'll be together for 5 years. So it's like
cool. Are you gonna be with the same driver that whole time, or y'all gonna be kind of switching around?
I think we'll be with the same driver, Austin. So Austin definitely want to keep us. So we'll be with the 3-car probably for the rest 5 years. So like, what is that? 27 plus 1, like
crazy.
Basically 6 years.
Crazy.
So I'll be 30, 31. Like, it's nuts to think about, but
I don't even want to think about being 30. I didn't even want to think about like being 25. Like time flies the older we get.
I know, 30 years old. I hope I'm still doing this when I'm 30, but body holds up.
Yeah, that's a big thing about y'all's sport too that I never realized is how much the pit crews actually do have to take care. Like, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but just taking care of y'all's body outside of being at the track and stuff. Like,
yeah, for sure. Like, invest your money in your body, like right now, and hopefully your knees hold up, like body, your arms, shoulders. Like,
y'all got all the tools at the track to fix it though. Y'all can just throw a load in there or something.
Throw a screw in it, zip that thing up. But like these older guys, like I've known guys that do it. This one guy's 41 and still doing it. So
that's crazy. Yeah, and Dave, my stepdad, he does the Xfinity stuff. He's
Big
gonna
Dave.
be. Yeah, I don't know. He might be like 60 now. Honestly, he's getting close to it if he's not. But
Gas man.
Gas man. I don't even know
Gas
what it
man
is.
96.
Shout out Dave.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have him on for episode.
He'd be a good one.
Anything else you want to shout out? You want to shout out anybody or tell anybody else what you got going on? I'm going to get your social and stuff in the description of it, but if you want to say it and all that, you can. I don't know it off the top of my
Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited.
Appreciate you being the second guest.
One. Yeah, man. I'm excited. Hopefully this thing just blows up, and I can't wait to hear all the other guests that come on.
Yeah, I think Bates is going to be the next one. Hopefully I can get the video working because that's been kind of an issue, and hopefully I can get it's a learning process.
Learning process, man. We got the sound at least. So.
Yeah, trial and error, but we'll figure it all out. Episode 2, Podheads. Podheads. It's been a great pleasure having JT, and I hope y'all have a great one, man.
Yes, sir.
One love, man.